The cake was too sweet. I noticed that before anything else. My sister had ordered it from a bakery she liked. 3 layers, pale pink frosting, gold lettering that said, "Happy Birthday, Sam." Everyone stood around the dining table with their phones out like it was a small event worth documenting. My brother-in-law kept saying, "Open the big one last." I had seen that tone before. The one that pretends to be playful while already assuming the outcome. For most of my life I was the easy one in the family. The one who paid the bill of the restaurant, forgot to split it. The one who let relatives stay for just a few months. The one who didn't argue when plans were made around my resources. It wasn't generosity exactly, it was habit. So when they handed me the gift box white wrapping, a silver ribbon, I already knew the room expected some kind of reaction. I opened it slowly. Inside was an envelope. Inside the envelope was a printed notice. At first the words looked like something from a template, "Notice to vacate premises," my address, my house. I read it twice before looking up. Nobody spoke immediately. They were watching my face. My sister finally laughed lightly. "It's not as dramatic as it sounds." My brother-in-law leaned forward on his elbows. "You know we're getting married soon. We need the place to ourselves." "It just makes sense," someone else added. "You were thinking of moving anyway." I folded the paper carefully along its crease. "Interesting gift," I said. The room relaxed immediately. They had expected resistance and found none. Once there's no conflict, people lose interest quickly. The cake was cut. Photos were taken. Someone made a joke about how paperwork was the adult version of a birthday card. I stayed another hour. Then I went home. Driving alone has a way of rearranging memory. Little moments surfaced, not dramatic ones. Just patterns. My sister asking if she and her fiancé could stay temporarily when they were saving for their wedding. My parents telling me I have the biggest house so it made sense to host every holiday. My cousin once saying, half joking, "Sam's basically the family insurance policy." None of those moments had felt serious at the time. But that envelope had weight, not emotional weight, administrative weight. At home I placed the notice on the kitchen table and read it again. The language was clumsy, a downloadable form probably. It referenced tenant law that didn't apply. Mostly it assumed something that had never actually happened, that the house belonged to them. The mortgage statements in my drawer said otherwise, so did the tax records. Still, I made an appointment with a lawyer the next week, not because I was unsure, but because clarity is easier when it comes from someone who charges by the hour. His office smelled faintly of toner and old folders. He read the notice in about 15 seconds. "This isn't enforceable," he said calmly. "You're the owner." I nodded. "Are they tenants?" "No lease." "Family?" "Yes." He leaned back in his chair. "In that case," he said, "if you want them to leave, you'll need to issue the notice, not the other way around." The simplicity of that sentence settled something in my chest. For years I had mistaken silence for peace. They had mistaken it for permission. Months passed. The wedding approached. Invitations arrived, printed on thick cream paper. My sister's new last name already appeared on the envelope. When I RSVP'd yes, nobody seemed surprised. Family systems are slow to detect change. During that time, I continued paying the mortgage on the house they lived in, but I also filed paperwork, nothing dramatic, just proper documentation, certified letters, deadlines, a listing consultation with a real estate agent. The house had gained value over the years. Selling it would fund something quieter somewhere else. Somewhere smaller. The wedding took place in a renovated barn outside the city. String lights, wooden tables, a violinist playing modern songs slowly enough to sound elegant. People hugged me as if nothing unusual had ever happened. During the reception, someone mentioned how perfect the house would be for starting a family. My sister smiled when they said it. "Sam always knew it would end up with us," she replied. I didn't correct her. Not then. Dinner finished. Speeches happened. Laughter floated across the room in warm waves. Then, just after the cake was cut, 2 people entered the venue quietly. They weren't dressed for the celebration. Neutral clothing, a leather folder between them. They approached the table where my sister and her husband were sitting. The room didn't notice immediately, but the couple did. The man spoke politely. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried the tone of someone used to being listened to. "We're delivering a formal notice regarding the property at," he said the address. My sister's smile faltered. The document explained that the homeowner intended to reclaim and sell the property. Occupants were required to vacate within the legally required period. The owner's name appeared clearly. Mine. No one shouted. Authority rarely needs volume. Guests nearby began whispering. My parents looked from the paper to me, as if translation might appear in my face. My brother-in-law stood halfway from his chair. "You planned this?" I considered the question for a moment. "I handled it," I said. That was the closest thing to an explanation I offered. Later, someone tried to talk to me near the exit. "You didn't have to do it like this," they said quietly. Maybe they were right, but there's a strange thing about timing. The birthday envelope had arrived publicly. I had simply answered in the same language. No insults, no spectacle, just paperwork. I left before the dancing started. Outside, the night air was cool and steady. Inside the barn, the music resumed, slightly awkward at first, then normal again. Weddings have momentum. They rarely stop for long. I walked to my car and sat there for a moment. For years, my role in the family had been simple: absorb the inconvenience so everyone else could move forward. Tonight, nothing dramatic had happened. No revenge, no shouting. Just a boundary enforced by the same quiet system that manages mortgages and property lines. For the first time, I wondered what my life might look like without that role. The thought didn't feel triumphant. It felt unfamiliar. But it also felt stable, and that was enough.